All right, for this lesson, we're going to look at compound interest. So, just to start, interest is money that you pay when you either borrow money from somebody, so like extra money you pay when you borrow money from somebody, or extra money that you earn when you invest money. Quick example. You borrow money off a friend, let's say $1,000, and then they say, oh, you owe me $1,100 back. That is the concept of that extra money. It's extra money that you would owe on top of the original amount. So you don't just borrow 1,000, pay back 1,000. Someone makes money for loaning you money. Or in the converse, you give somebody money and they pay you more back. So that is the concept of how interest works. To start, just quick look at simple interest. This is interest that is calculated on the principal amount only, or only on the portion of principal amount that remains unpaid. So this is the money that you put into an account or into somebody, given to somebody or borrowed from somebody, and you owe that much back. They then charge you money based on how much is currently there. The general formula is that the amount of accumulated money owing or to you or to them is the principal, the starting amount, plus the principal times the rate of interest, which will be given to you as a percentage, but then you have to convert to a decimal. Remember, percentages to decimal the rule is divide by 100. Okay. So that's what you need to do every time you look at the interest rate. You have to divide that by 100 to convert it to a decimal. The time invested, which is always given in years, is then multiplied. So principal plus principal times rate times time. Investing is really important to your life. You will be working with the concept of interest, maybe not in just investing. Hopefully you'll be investing. I really want you to invest money and save money for the long term, but you'll be working with savings accounts or investment accounts, or you will be borrowing money. At some point in your life, every one of you will be doing this, be it to buy a car, to use a credit card, to buy a house, to save money for retirement. All these things involve interest and developing interest. And so having an understanding how that works will make a lot of difference in the long term on your financial success. So interest connects to saving, investing, and borrowing. So if you're doing any of these things, interest is involved. Simple interest will give you a basic idea of it. However, more likely a lot of things are going to work on compound interest, which is where interest not only comes from the principal. So, you owe me $100 and every year you don't pay me, or every week you don't pay me, you owe me an extra $100. You go to your local loan shark and he's like, okay, I'll give you $1,000, but you owe me 1,100 next week. After 2 weeks, you owe me 1,200. After 3 weeks, you owe me 1,300. Compound interest grows quicker than that. And it says, well, after 1 week, you owe me 1,100. But after 2 weeks, you owe me that same amount, which would be 10% in that case, 10% of 1,100. So you owe me an extra 1,210. Thus, an extra 210 or an extra $110. We'll look at that. May sound confusing. We'll look at this in a couple examples in a moment. But it's basically where you're paying interest on your interest. So the more money that's there, the more money that you get or you have to pay, because the interest adds into that. So the formula changes a little bit. A, P, R, and T, same things. Again, time is in years. The difference here is that you have an N, which is the number of times things are compounded per year. I have a little table that we'll look at in a moment. But the amount that you now end up with is your principal times 1 plus the rate divided by the times in years. So how long you're investing in years, to the power of the number of compounding periods, n, times time. A little more complex of a formula. We got some fractions, we got some which are division, and we got some exponents in there, but not a lot more. Same number of variables, so that's not that much harder. So our number of compounding periods is a challenge for people. Just making sure you memorize these. These are things you should be familiar with. The more frequently something is compounded, the more money that you will probably be paying or making. So we have annual, where things happen once a year. We calculate how much is owed every year. We have semi-annually, twice a year. Quarterly happens 4 times a year. Monthly, 12 months in a year, so 12 times a year. Bi-monthly means 24 times a year because it happens every half month. Bi-weekly, we use that, and bi-monthly, bi-weekly often are confusing because bi-monthly means every twice a month, but bi-weekly means every second week. So every second week, thus 26 times a year. Note that when you're doing any investments, bi-weekly is always better than bi-monthly. You'll save money on or make more money. Weekly is 50 times a year, and daily is 365 times a year. We have a little chart here just to do a quick comparison of simple versus compound interest. If I remember correctly, I did this over $1,000 over 50 years. No, 30 years at 5%. And you can see our principal. So this is our $1,000. It never changes. Simple interest goes up a little bit, but compound interest goes up much more. Initially, there's no difference. These are from here to here and here to here is exactly the same. But as time progresses, you see that compound interest makes more and more money. Thus, compound interest in the long term is much better. And that's an important concept to be aware of, is that compound interest does make you more money over time. To just see an illustration of that, we'll do a couple quick examples. We have a comparison of simple versus compound interest. So here we are going to just compare the accumulated value for $1,000 invested over 20 years at 4% using simple interest, and then the same at compound interest, just invested annually, so compound annually, so I'm not worrying about some of those extra compounding periods. Simple interest, again, the formula was A equals P plus PRT. So our final amount will be the principal, which is $1,000 plus $1,000 times the rate 0.04. Remember, we took that 4% divided by 100, and the time, which is 20 years. We can plug this all into our calculator exactly like this. You'll get the exact result, or if you're more comfortable, do this portion right here and then this portion. I'm going to do it step by step. So $1,000, I'll do 1,000 times 0.04 times 20. That's going to give me 800. And when I add those together, I will get 1,800. If you can type that all in like that in your calculator and you get 1,800, feel free to do that. You're getting the right answer. But we took our $1,000, we made an extra 800. In the terms of compound interest, it's slightly different. The formula is A equals P 1 plus R over N to the power of NT. Thus, our amount is 1,000 times 1 plus 0.04 divided by 1 to the power of 1 times 20. Again, if you're really good and confident using your calculator, you can type this all in at once. Make sure you get the same result as me. Otherwise, do it step by step. The amount equals 1,000 times 1 plus 0.04 divided by 1. If you want to break this up into 2 steps, go for it. I'm going to simplify it because it's divided by 1, which means the ones divided by 1 is irrelevant. You got 1.04. 20 times 1 is 20. So now I can type this in my calculator, 1,000 times 1.04 times 20, and I get a result of 2,191.12. So you notice the difference between simple and compound interest over the time period. After 1 year, these would be exactly the same, but over time, each year, compound interest will continually make more money. And after 20 years, we get $1,800 versus $2,191 and 12 cents. We've made almost $400 more using compound interest. When we start looking at some of the investment concepts in later sections, you'll see you keep adding money in and it just keeps growing. This is the difference between $100,000 and $1 million. This is the difference between $50,000 and $2 million, depending on how much money you're putting in, how you're investing. So it's important to understand the concept that compound interest does make you a lot more money over the course of time. Any questions that you have, make sure you take notes of them, and then we can answer them in class.